everybody. This is Lori, and I am the owner and founder of a company called Inclusivity, and we're all about justice and kindness and inclusive everything. So this is our podcast, Inclusivi-TALKS, and we are honored today to have John and Mark from John's Crazy Socks. And I want to preface having them start talking by saying the reason I have connected with them is that when I started the company and was really talking about including everybody and bringing everybody in, I found their company and I was like, okay, these guys are fantastic. I want to work with them. I want to know them. So I've been really excited about this. And John actually has created a panel for our Artists Who Share auction, which is raising money for coronavirus recovery. So we are so thrilled, and I'm so excited to have you both here. So thank you for being here.
Well, we're glad to be here, right, pal?
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad to see you. So I wanted to start with the question that everybody always asks you, which is, how did you end up starting a sock company? So what's the story behind the sock company?
I just my idea. I will tell you all the way back to 2016.
Tell the full story?
Yeah, I can start first story?
Sure.
Of course.
Goes back to the fall of 2016. And our story starts in a small log cabin in the woods. Not really.
No.
It starts, where were we living? What town?
We live in Huntington, right in London. I am from New York City.
Right. We're in the suburbs. We're out in the town of Huntington, home to Walt Whitman, out on Long Island. And in the fall of 2016, where were you?
I was in school. I was in Huntington High School, and I spent time in the tech as a retail.
So John was in school in his last year of high school. In the U.S., in every state, I believe, except Michigan, if you have a disability, you can stay in the school system until you turn 21, and then you got to leave. So they were going to say, enough, get out.
Right.
And like everybody else, John was trying to figure out what he was going to do when he was done with school.
I did. I looked at ideas, and I got back to my dad. I want to go visit with him.
Now, for myself, the business I had been working in had shut down overnight. So I was looking for work, and I was starting some online businesses. John didn't see anything he liked, so you came and said,
I want to go visit with my dad.
Now I have 3 sons. John's the youngest.
I did.
This is one I can work with, right? So, and John, in that sense, is a natural entrepreneur. It wasn't a problem. It was an opportunity to go and create a business and create something he could do. So now we had to come up with an idea for a business.
Right.
What was your first suggestion?
A fun store.
A fun store.
A fun store?
Yes.
I love that.
If you know what that could be, you let us know, because I still have no idea. What was your next idea?
Food truck. I got an idea from the movie Chef and John Favreau, the movie my father's had business.
So that was pretty cool. We had seen this movie Chef. He loved it. He said, Dad, we should start a food truck. And that seemed like a fun idea, right?
Yes.
Until we ran into a problem.
We can't cook.
Yeah, we can't cook. If you can't cook, it's hard to run a food truck. So we had to come up with another idea.
And I said, I want to create a sock. Why sock is fun, creative, and only maybe me. I want to create a sock my entire life.
You said that very fast.
I want to.
John had worn these crazy, colorful socks his whole life. We used to drive around looking for them. That was his thing.
Okay.
And here's something, right? If there's something you love, there are good chances other people will love it too, and you just have to find your tribe. So we decided we'd give it a shot, right?
I did.
And we went the lean startup route. So we didn't stop and do a lot of planning. We didn't develop a business plan. We said we'd get something up and running and would see what happened. People would let us know because they'd buy the socks or they wouldn't. So we set up a website.
Yeah,
John
we
had
did.
already had the name. We got a little bit of inventory, right?
Right.
The only marketing we did was to set up a Facebook page and make some videos with what we do. You make do with what you have.
Mhm.
So I took out my cell phone and John would talk about
Socks.
You came up with a catchphrase.
Socks are more socks.
What is it?
Socks, socks, more socks.
I love it.
Right? And we noticed something. Those little videos started getting shared. People were liking what they saw. And what day did we open?
We opened Friday, December 9, 2016.
So that's how we got started.
Okay.
And we were very fortunate. We've been very fortunate throughout this. But that very first day, because of those videos, we got 42 orders. And they were all local. Almost all of them were local. Which makes sense, right? He was in Huntington High School. We lived in Huntington. We had temporary office space in Huntington. So what did we decide to do with those first deliveries?
I decided I want to do home deliveries.
So we
Okay.
got red boxes. We put the socks in the box. We looked at it and said, this needs something else.
I did.
So what else did we put in it?
We put candy, take a note.
Like John wrote handwritten thank you notes. We put
I love
candy,
that.
Hershey's Kisses. We
Yeah.
loaded up the car. We'd drive around and John would go knock on doors.
I did.
There would be times it was 10 o'clock at night and he's knocking on doors.
I lucky I did have a shotgun.
Yeah, lucky there was no shotguns coming to the door. But how the customers respond.
Contact club, they put front of me, I get the word.
We'd show up and whole families were waiting for John. They'd take pictures and started sharing. So by the end of the month, really 2 weeks, we had shipped 452 orders. And we knew we had learned a few things, right? One, people want to buy socks.
Right? Two, I buy socks from me and they relate to me.
People wanted to buy socks from John. They liked the fact that we were pledging 5% of our earnings to the Special Olympics. They liked the personal touch. People related to John. And we learned something that surprised us. We got emails and phone calls right away from people talking about how inspirational John was. That's not how we thought. It was just John was John, and we were opening a store. But we took the chance. We set it up. We tested it, and we got a strong response, and that's how we got going.
So when you say that people were so impressed with how inspirational John is, what do you think that they were referencing? What do you think they were talking about?
Well, I think a couple of things. One, they were seeing a young man with Down syndrome. And there was no self-pity. There was no down in his luck. It was, look what I can do. I can go and make this happen. I think there's a certain aspect that we all do this, right? We all have an idea. Oh, I could do this or I could do that. And people loved the fact that John was actually going and making it happen. But particularly, we heard from parents and family members of people with Down syndrome and with other different abilities, particularly those with younger children, because this gave them hope. This gave them an example or a role model of somebody who was actually going and doing something. I think that's what it was.
I think probably you're right that what it made people think, John, is that they could do it too.
Yes.
If you could do something so cool, maybe they could do something cool.
We've been very fortunate, right? We've grown and we've brought in a good amount of revenue. And I think John has caused a lot of hell for some recent college graduates because they may be home on the couch and not having a job and not knowing what they're going to do. And their parents are turning and looking at them saying, wait a second, look at this guy. What are you doing?
So John, have you always been interested in art? Have you always been kind of creative?
Yeah, I love art. I'm very creative. I can tell you about the art I did.
Yeah.
Seven years ago, when I graduated from school, I took an art class, and I made sculptures.
Right? In art class, you would take art electives and you took fashion design,
Fashion design,
right?
and I really neat. I made a sculpture like
Sculptures, right?
sculptures of that.
You took a photography class.
I did.
You're a regular Renaissance man.
Yeah, I love
You
it.
work in all sorts of mediums. What do you give your mother for Mother's Day?
I give my mom a piece of poem.
He wrote a poem. He writes songs. He dances.
Wow.
I did.
You know, when I think of Renaissance men, people who sculpt and they create art and they do paintings and they sing and dance. You know who I think of?
Yeah.
Two people, Bob Dylan and you.
So John, you write poetry.
I did for a little bit and not that great.
Well, he writes poems. You know, you wrote two beautiful poems for your mom,
Yeah.
right?
One.
They're not reserving space at Westminster Abbey to put your bust, but your poetry, you know, it comes from the heart.
The poetry is coming at the heart. Maybe write something like some people write they keep calm,
Right?
they keep calm and something. But I write keep calm and the blank are gonna be like what is the best goal?
Oh, you know, one of the things about John, and it helps him create,
Mhm.
and it also helps him as an entrepreneur. There's no fear. There's no holding back. He believes things can happen, and he just goes full force into it. I can
I love that.
remember. Oh, this must have been 5 years or a little more ago, and at his high school, they would do a talent show
Mhm.
to raise money for Relay for Cancer, right?
Right.
And John, the first year they were doing this, announced he was going to go and dance at this. And he was rehearsing and practicing.
I practice all the time because I want to get it right and I want to get.
So he worked, but you worked at
I
it.
work on that.
And his brother, one of his older brothers, came to me and said, "Hey, Dad, you can't let him do this. He's going to go out on that stage and embarrass himself." And I was worried.
Mhm.
But, you know, I spoke to John and he said, "Dad, I got this." And he got up on the high school stage, which was a big, brick broad stage, all by himself. The music played,
And no problem.
and he danced his heart out. And the whole place wound up cheering. And it wasn't because, well, look what he does as a kid with Down syndrome. It was, look at this great dance.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's got that fierce heart. That, you know, they told James Joyce, you know, you can't sell these stories. They're not going to fly. And he didn't believe it.
And
He believed himself. That's John.
I do my first time I did.
Right?
And second time I did, I sang Tupu
Right. You sang a song for your grandfather.
and my grandfather.
Oh, that's lovely.
But before we go too far, I got to share something else, right? I understand people talking about John as being this great inspiration. He's also the kid
Dad.
who in the car sits
Dad.
next to me and texts me. Well, sit next to me. "Dad, I farted." That's your inspiration.
So John, you're complex. You're multi-layered.
You're a man of the people.
For the record, Dad,
Yeah.
I have a way to be.
You want to whisper to me?
For the record.
Yeah, thank you, son.
So how has it been working together?
I love working with my dad because he's my partner. She's my roommate. So we're co-founders, and we had a coronavirus hair.
We have coronavirus hair.
Yeah,
That we do. Coronavirus hair, coronavirus beard.
it's wonderful.
It's really wonderful working with John. He's an ideal partner because we both know we need each other. This wasn't going to happen without John, and I'd like to think John needs my partnership too. And it's wonderful to see John's entrepreneurial spirit, but also his conviction in what he does. He's incredibly hardworking. And as his dad, to get to watch your son, and this would be true of all three of my sons, to get to watch them grow and develop and find their path into who they want to be, that's awesome. Right?
It's a big deal.
I'll give you an anecdote about John. Last summer, we had participated in a fundraiser for the Special Olympics in the city, New York City. Oh, it's a good story, John.
It's been
It was a mixer for young professionals, a lot of Wall Street types, and it went late. We got home after 2 a.m, and I told John, I said, listen, you haven't had any time off. Sleep in tomorrow. Don't come, take the day off, rest. He said, really? He said, okay. So I got up, I came to the office, and a little bit later that morning, John comes walking in. I said, what are you doing? He says, I got things to do. I took an Uber and I came down to the office. Because you're the owner and you believe in what you do, right?
I was going to say, as the owner.
That's a great story. It's a good story.
It's really not good story to me.
Yes, it is. It shows your work ethic, your conviction. It shows your fun, your independence. Believe me, it's a good story.
It's a great story. Yeah, it just shows that you're such a strong, hard worker.
No reason to be embarrassed. There's nothing embarrassing about that story.
You know what? Sometimes, John, my husband will tell me to take a day off, and then I end up getting up at 5 a.m. and starting to work. And he says to me, what are you doing? So I totally understand.
John puts in long days, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yesterday was pretty typical. It started we're at work before 9 and finished up about 7:30 at night, right? And you just love doing it. Does anybody make you work?
No.
No. It's your business, right?
Right.
So, Mark, what was your business before this?
I have a checkered past. I spent most of my career in the healthcare field. I'm old, so back in the 80s, I worked in the Medicaid program in New York City. I wound up running the Medicaid health program. Left there and worked in consulting, running consulting businesses, as well as some healthcare management and technology businesses. Much of it focused on how do we better deliver healthcare to the poor, and how do we better organize healthcare to keep the relationship between patient and doctor. So I spent most of my career doing that, but early on I taught school. I did teach university courses at Columbia and NYU across the way. I've organized political campaigns. I started a couple different software companies along the way. We had something back in the mid-90s called New Gutenberg software that got rave reviews and lost every penny we had. It was good stuff.
What about the high school, Dad?
Well, I'm not going to talk about high school. We're going to leave that in high school.
What you organize?
Yes, I organize lots of things. John is still upset that I organized Junior Cut Day, but that's what you want to bring up?
Yes.
We're supposed to be trying to impress people here, John. I also write written fiction on the side and publish short stories. So
you're kind of a Renaissance man too.
Yeah, no.
John comes by that naturally.
You know, I used to think I had good dance moves, but nothing compared to John. So we both sing alike. We both sound like that Leonard Cohen song, "The Drunks in the Midnight Choir."
Yeah, I do that.
So, John, you created an image for us for the auction. So I want to thank you for doing that. I can't wait to see it.
Well, we sent a little video of you before working on it.
Oh, right.
Actually, if we could share our screen,
That'd be wonderful.
I could show
I have
you.
it here.
He's got it there. So let me just, I'm going to move the camera so we can reach round. And there's what he's working on. Very symbolic. You want to talk about that at all?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I want to show you what it look like. The purple. I will tell you about the purple one.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I just call peace. I want to call it hope.
Hope. Okay.
Oh, I love that.
And I draw a blue star. I want to make it dreams.
Dreams. Okay.
And I draw a green one and make it smile.
Okay.
And I fade to red. I call Maxida.
Okay.
And I can put a little bit of love.
Love.
And I make a flower.
So what does that add up to a flower?
A flower, actually, the flower look like inspiration.
Inspiration. Very cool, John.
I love that.
And John, you've been working on it. You like drawing on the computer?
I do.
That's how you like working?
Right before I draw King Cane.
You were drawing?
I King.
Okay, candy cane. Right, you put that in, you took it out. You know, editing's a big part of any artistic work.
It sure is. I love it.
So, yeah, John, we are very excited about the Artists Who Share auction that you're coming up with. You're really excited about it, aren't you?
I do.
Right? It
I
sounds
think
like-
it's going to be so fun.
Yeah.
I don't think I told you that we actually have some artists from Colombia who are joining in.
Oh, very neat.
Some street artists from Colombia are sending some of
Very
their work.
neat.
So we're excited
Sure.
about that.
Oh, well, congratulations. What a wonderful thing.
Now, somehow, I think,
Oh, I have to stop sharing.
oh, perfect.
I apologize.
So you sing, you write, you do art, you're the owner of a business. You're pretty darn busy.
He is Special Olympic athlete.
Okay.
Now that's all shut down now,
And
Right.
I do I athlete congress.
right? He's in the Athletes Congress for New York State Special Olympics.
Okay.
And I am a board member of the National Down Syndrome Society.
Board member of the National Down Syndrome Society. John just takes it as it rolls.
Yeah.
And he meets people and he takes everybody for who they are, not title, not roles.
Yeah.
You know, I saw this somewhat humorously around Christmas time. We spoke in an event with EY, used to be called Ernst & Young. They changed their name to EY to clarify things. Okay. So we were speaking before about 3,500 people. And right before the event, their worldwide CEO came in. And we had met him before. Carmine's a great guy. So, you know, EY has 280,000 employees worldwide. So here comes this guy who's like the leader of a country. And he sees John and they hug and they're talking and everybody else around is like, oh, that's Carmine. And they're all kind of kowtowing to the big boss. And John is like, yeah, it's Carmine. I know Carmine. Right?
Boy, don't you think that's the way it should be? I mean, I think that's wonderful.
It is much, there is much that John does that as his father, I find inspirational and instructive.
Yeah.
you know, I am, he meant it in a bad way. I find it a positive thing. I am, like T.S. Eliot said, an old man being read to by a boy. I'm still learning from my son. Right, buddy? That's why he's the chief happiness officer.
I like that a lot. So, for both of you, I'd like to ask, Chief Happiness Officer, by the way, is a wonderful title. I think
Need
every
more of those.
company should have one.
We need more of those. Maybe
We
the
sure do.
administration in DC should have one.
So, I want to ask both of you, if you were talking to someone younger and just giving them a little piece of advice, something you want them to think about when they're sort of moving forward with their lives, what would you say?
You have some advice for people?
I do. Follow your dreams, follow your heart, and so you can do. So you and work hard, and I see that people wanted a better place.
It's, you know,
I like that.
I'm aging, right? It's a short movie we get, and you got to make it your own. You can't live for others, what others want to do. You got to make it your own, and you go out and you try, and the worst thing that happens is you fail. So what? You get up. You know, I think of two lines. There's a guy, Seth Godin, who says, the guy who fails the most is the biggest winner in the end because he keeps getting up. And there's a saying in the prize fight, the boxing world, the champion is the one who can always go another round, who can always find a way to keep going. And I know us, for what we found, right? What's our mission?
Spreading happiness.
And there seem to be three things to me there. One is do for others. The more you do for others, the better off you are. We've built a business around that. Two is have a sense of gratitude. Appreciate what you have. Appreciate the small things, the big things. And three, believe in something. Believe in something outside of yourself. You do those, it's going to be okay.
What's wonderful, Mark, is that the research supports all of that.
Yeah.
You are happiest when you take care of others, when you believe in something, whatever it is. And that's incredible. So your philosophy is supported.
If all you do is think about yourself, if all you do is worry about yourself, you'll never be happy.
Yeah, you can't be happy.
No.
So the last thing I want to ask you guys, well, I want to ask you two things. One, and John, you can absolutely say no to this, but I'm wondering if you would share a poem with us. Or have your dad read one of your poems for us, either one. So just think about that for a minute. And then I also want to ask each of you to just tell us a story from your life. And Mark, it can be from after your kids were born, or it can be from before that. But just something that when I say tell me a story about your life, that it pops into your head. And I'll give you an example. One of the people that I interviewed told a story about trying to fry an egg on the sidewalk when she was a kid. So it doesn't have to be a story with a lesson. It's just a story that when you look back over your life, you say, you know, I remember that time that whatever it is. So.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you one that comes to mind. Happened a long time ago. I was in 8th grade. I wasn't much of a student, or I didn't think of myself that way. And it came time for the science fair. Mm-hmm. And in those days, you could enter something, you could apply to enter something, but it was very selective. So I wasn't going to bother. I had to do an assignment for class, and I'd go through the motions. And my 8th grade science teacher, Mr. Gabris, who walked around in a white lab coat, he had this short brush hair, he pulled me aside and he said, you really have to apply for this. And I looked at him thinking, me? And basically he said, you're not an idiot. You can do this. And the fact that he took that time, the fact that he touched me and got me to do that, that happened almost 50 years ago. And it still sticks with me. It still motivates me. Unfortunately, I had to have a couple people in my life tell me that. So I'm a slow learner.
I think we should be hearing that from people all the time. So
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
John, do you have a story you'd like to share with us? And if you don't, that's okay too.
Um,
We've told quite a few stories about your life
You
already.
don't like being put on the spot, do you?
no, I don't.
I don't blame you. That's okay. You know what, John? We've already told a bunch of stories about your life, so it's okay if you don't have another one.
Want to tell a story about you and your brother Patrick? Or you and
Oh.
brother Jamie?
Maybe I want to share the story about my brother Patrick.
Okay.
I have a really good story. Patrick, he graduated from high school. He went to St. Anthony's High School. I was home. I forget which school I am.
Mhm.
Which school I am.
Well, you're 6 years younger than Patrick, so you were in junior high.
Junior high.
Going into junior high when he left for college.
Patrick went to St. Anthony's High School. He graduated from there. I was junior high. Patrick Patrick go off to school. He got in. He went up to school in Maine, in Portland, in Waterville. He went to Colby College.
Colby College.
And Patrick, Patrick worried about me. Patrick was concerned that make sure I'm okay. Make sure I'm okay. We away from school. He decided that he picked up the phone or call me every single day. How was my day? How was your day? And I sort of really good relationship with my brother. I think about Patrick as my brother. I think about him. I'll call him brother friend.
He's like a friend and he's a great brother, and that's right. When Patrick went off to college, he called you every day, and that was 12 years ago.
That's
And he still calls John every day,
amazing.
right? Two of you talk every day on the phone?
Right. And I talked to Patrick something. Something that came up. I have a good news for Patrick.
Right,
I'm really happy for him. He's my brother.
right.
I asked my brother, I am a proud brother.
You are a proud brother,
I
right?
tell why.
Yeah.
My brother Patrick, he got engaged.
He's engaged.
He engaged. I'm really happy for him. And I talked to Patrick. I'm thinking about that. When Patrick get married,
Right,
if Patrick off to a honeymoon,
right.
all that, I give him a rest.
A rest? You mean he's not going to call you every day?
No.
Okay.
And not exactly.
I thought you were going to say you were going to go on the honeymoon with them.
No.
That would be weird. It would be. I
It's
agree.
weird and we'll be creepy there.
A little creepy, yes. Okay.
And I try to be good brother. If he go to honeymoon,
Right.
maybe I'll rest just for a little bit.
Doc to have to call you every day.
Yeah,
But he doesn't have to call you every day. He wants to call you every day.
I know because I keep Patrick be in keeping a privacy.
Right. But that's a good story about you and Patrick. Huh?
That's a great story.
Right. That's good.
He sounds like a pretty great brother. And you sound like a pretty great brother too, John.
Right. And I don't want let my left my other brother,
You don't want to leave Jamie out.
Jimmy, out.
Can I tell a story about your brothers?
Yeah.
So when John was starting school, we sat down with them to say, look, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how people are going to treat John, and not everybody's going to understand Down syndrome. And in those days, it was very hard for John to talk or to be understood. So I sat down with the two boys, and they're 3 and 6 years older than John. And Patrick is the older. And Patrick looked and he said, well, that's okay, Dad. If people don't, if they have a trouble or they say bad things, we'll just sit down and explain to them what Down syndrome is and explain about John. And Jamie looked at him and looked at me and he said, yeah. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to knock him out.
So 2 good brothers.
And there you go.
I don't want.
I know, you don't want to leave Jamie out, right?
So John and Mark, one of the things that I really love about you too is that you're really collaborative. And you've said that to me from the beginning, that often John will design a pair of socks and then you have somebody else who kind of adds to the design and kind of finishes it up. And even for the auction, my husband's an artist and I think we're going to have him kind of touch up what John sends us. So that is this beautiful collaborative piece that we're going to put in the auction. And I love that that's your philosophy. How'd you decide to do that?
I think it just comes natural, and it's obvious. I kind of smile bemusedly. When you're coming up the ranks through school, you're told to do everything by yourself, and if you work with somebody else, we call that cheating.
Yeah.
And yet, once you're done with school, there's almost nothing you do alone. Even what may appear to be a solitary act, let's say writing a poem or writing fiction, often depends upon having a reader who can share feedback with you or having an editor. That's critical to the process. So it's also a notion. We see it in our organization, but I've seen other organizations I've led. I'd liken it to an old idea about the internet. All of us are smarter than any one of us.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take advantage of our strengths.
I like that.
Things together.
All of us are smarter than any of us. I like that a lot.
Any one of us, yeah.
So, John, do you have a poem that you would share or that you'd let your dad share with us?
Do you have a poem ready? That's okay if you don't.
I don't have it with me.
Yeah.
I probably cover in my head.
Okay. No, well, it sounds like no on the poem. Right?
I said I'll cover my head.
You have one in your head?
Yeah.
You want to go and recite a poem?
Yeah.
Knock yourself out, babe.
Water or red, violet or blue,
Yeah.
a extraordinary BU.
Extraordinary BU?
I did not make sense. Water or red, violet is blue, extraordinary, dad be dad.
Dad be dad? Okay. Sounds good to me.
I like it. So let me see if I got it right. Roses are red, violets are blue, an extraordinary,
You said that, and then dad be dad.
and dad be dad. I like it. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thanks for telling us something about your lives. You're both fantastic. I'm so excited to see the finished work, John. Once we have that, we will share it with you guys too. And we're excited about the auction. So we're going to send you all the information about that and make sure that you can follow it and see what's going on.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
You're helping us fulfill our mission of talking about our colleagues and showing what people can do, right?
Yeah. Well, you're fantastic. So it totally my pleasure and my honor to have you
You
here.
want to put a plug in? You got to put a plug in for the business.
Oh yeah, please
If
do.
people want great socks, where can they go?
SockCrazySocks.com. I'm right over there.
johnscrazysocks.com. And when you buy from us, you enable us to hire people with differing abilities. More than half our workforce has a differing ability. You enable us to give back. As we like to say, we're just a couple knuckleheads selling socks. We got this little business, and all we're trying to do is change the world.
A couple of knuckleheads trying to save the world.
Well, we're trying to save
I like it.
the world, right?
Yes.
Although you don't seem like knuckleheads to the rest of us.
Well,
To the rest of us, you seem pretty spectacular.
we're pretty fortunate, right, buddy?
So John and Mark, thank you so much.
Well, thank
It was
you.
a real pleasure.